Hi guys, welcome. Danny here from the Magic Junk Drawer. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about the Neville Goddard technique, everyone is you pushed out, which I think for me, it's been a little bit difficult to kind of wrap my brain around it. So if you're struggling with it, maybe this will help a little bit. So the idea is nobody in your reality has any free will except for you. So what you think and assume about people is what they're going to show you. So for example, if you believe that your boss is a jerk, he's always going to show you that he's a jerk. If you believe that your mom is very hard on you, your mom is always going to be hard on you. That's what she's going to show you, because that's what you focus on, and we always get more of what we focus on. So you want to change the way you see, think, and perceive a situation or a person so that it gets reflected back to you the way you want it to be. So simple things that you can do, and I did this today at the grocery store. I wasn't in any hurry and I could have waited there all day, but I figured let me just try this. First of all, I don't understand why grocery stores have these self-checkout things. It's okay if you have one thing, but if you have a lot of things, you're always going to get screwed up on the produce. And let me tell you something. I worked in a grocery store my entire life. If I have trouble working those cash registers, everyone's going to have trouble. And then it's always like calling for an associate or whatever, and you stand there forever and no one shows up. So I always try to go to a person, because at least I know I'm going to get everything done and I'm not going to get hung up. But for some reason, there's only like 2 cashiers, and the rest of them are those self-checkout ones, which I always have trouble with. So I was waiting, and I was okay with waiting. But I saw another associate like walking around, and then she started putting bags on one of the registers, and I said to myself, I intend for her to call me over, that she's going to open, and I intend for her to call me over. And I just said it in my head a couple of times. And like I said, I wasn't in any hurry. So because I wasn't in any hurry and it really wasn't that big of a deal, there wasn't that desperation kind of a feel to my intention. It was a very clear intention, and it didn't matter if she didn't, because I wasn't going anywhere but home. So no desperation. Put the intention out into the universe, and what happens? She says, I can help, who's next? And I was the very next person. So you can practice little things like that. Remember, it's always about not having that desperate need. So how can I explain that? When you come from a place of desperation, like I will do anything to fix this, and you're doing whatever you can to fight against the feeling that you're feeling or the situation that you're fearing, you're creating more of that. So if my situation today was, I was late for work, I had to go to work, and I was desperate for somebody else to open and bring up my groceries, I would have been putting out a desperate vibe with a needy intention, and my manifestation would not have come, because the law of attraction doesn't work that way. So when you're in a situation that you're looking to change, remember that what you focus on, you're going to get more of. So if you spend your whole day complaining about the coworker that you can't stand, you're going to get more of that coworker. If you let it go and take your attention away from it and drop the desperation, that coworker will leave. Now, I've been working since I'm 14 years old, and I've had to work with a lot of people that were a real pain in the ass and that I really wanted removed. And it always happened that when I let go of the feeling of, oh my God, I just want you gone, that's when they left. So when it comes to personal situations and personal relationships, you have to kind of come at the situation with, like, if you think this person is just a player in my movie and I can write the script the way I want it to be, then they have to reflect back to you what you believe about them. They have to. And if they're not, then you have to change your thoughts and your actions. So for example, if you're coming from a very desperate, needy place, calling, texting, freaking out, stalking, all over the Facebook, all over Instagram, hanging out at their job, this is going to cultivate resistance and pushing the person away. If you take a step back, right, and just think of it like this, and this is the God's honest truth when it comes to anything, things can change like that. I mean, we've all been in situations where life-changing things have happened in the bat of an eye. So things can change, and that's just very simple to just put that in your head with things can change at this moment. Things can change tonight. Things can change tomorrow. We can be in a completely different situation tomorrow afternoon. It happens. It's happened to all of us. You look back on your life. And then there's the whole part of just trusting the process, which can be difficult because there's so much time, and ups and downs and ins and outs where it seems like you're not going to get the end result. But if you focus on your end result, whatever it is, just trust that the way you're going to get there is going to take you there, no matter how many mountains and valleys you have to go through. Reminds me of this story that I told about when I became a yoga teacher. I had intended to be a yoga teacher for many years before I was actually able to make the teacher training happen. And if I looked back on all those years, it was like I always had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And it was like up and down, up and down, up and down. But eventually I got there. But with something like that, there was no real desperation there because I already had a job. I actually had 2 jobs. I was working a lot. It wasn't like I was desperate for money because I had money rolling in. So with that, it was more of the feeling of not being able to get off the roller coaster of constantly working, not really getting ahead, but constantly being at work and not having time off and spending my whole life working, which was the frustration that I was experiencing. And not only me, I worked with a lot of people at A&P that were working 2 jobs. I worked with a lot of people at my day job that were working 2 jobs. It's very common these days. So I was trying to make my job something that I enjoyed. And if I was going to have to work a lot, it was going to be something I enjoyed. Not that I'm sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day and then running around a grocery store for 5 hours at night. So there was a lot of resistance in me with how am I going to do this? How can I make this happen? Rather than just trusting that it would. So that is probably why it took as long as it did, because I had all those thoughts in my head. I'll never get out. I'm never going to get out. I'm never going to get off this ride. It's never going to end. And it took a long time. I mean, I did that for 14 years. Working full-time during the day and working nights and weekends at A&P. So, all that being said, you have to really stop and think about each thought that you have throughout the day and if it's taking you closer to your goal or further away from your goal. And whatever the goal is. I'm never going to be able to save money. I'm never going to be able to buy the car I want. I'm never going to be able to take a vacation. I mean, I've heard myself say all of these things in the past. And it's just not true. It's not true. First of all, especially when it comes to money, money is fluid energy. So you spend it, you receive it, you spend it, you earn it, you receive it, it keeps going. Now, there are people that spend more putting more of their energy out than taking it in, and vice versa. And then that's where things start to fall off balance. But if you look at the rest of your life, if you're one of those people that overspends and doesn't take enough in, you may look at your life and see that it's not just with money that you do it with everything. And I know that I do that. I know that with my relationships with people, no matter who they are, I'm always giving more and not saying no. Like, I very rarely ever tell anybody no unless I have to work. Like, unless it's like I'm working. If somebody asks me to do something, go somewhere, help them with something, I always say yes. And sometimes I have to think to myself, if you don't put yourself first, the universe isn't going to put you first. If you're always putting yourself second, then that's where the universe is going to put you second. And that's if you put yourself second. You could put yourself in last place, and then guess where you're showing up. So it's going through each day and really stopping to think, is this taking me closer to my goal, or is it taking me further away? And I always laugh at, I guess we all do this. You have conversations with yourself in your head with a specific person, whoever this person might be. And you're having this whole conversation with them in your head, but it's not in reality. So why are you wasting your thoughts on something that's has not come into fruition? But all of these thoughts are going out into the universe. You know, you're an asshole, or you didn't do this, or you forgot to do that, or you told me you were going to call me at 3 o'clock. Whatever it is, you're putting all of these thoughts out into the universe. And what is the purpose? The person's not hearing them. You're not having the physical conversation with them. So cut off the conversation in your head and think about something else. Think about how you want the conversation to turn out. But, you know, like everything else, it is a practice. So the best advice that I think that I have heard and that I would share would be, if something is being reflected in your life that you don't like, that's like the one piece of information that is like the key to the treasure. It's like, this is what you're being shown. That's what you've been thinking about. This is not what you want. You need to change your thoughts. It's as simple as that, but you just have to stay on it. And like I said, the woman at the grocery store, that's really simple, right? There was no emotional involvement. There was no desperation in need. It was just, I'm intending for her to open up and call me over next. And that's what she did. So very interesting that we can do this in all of the situations that we're in. We just don't do it because nobody ever taught us. And then learning new tricks is just a little bit difficult in the beginning to change the way you think about things. Instead of letting the situation victimize you, I'm going to be waiting in line here forever. My ice cream's going to melt. I'm going to be late getting home. I really have to pee. Don't let it victimize you, because there are other employees in the store and somebody can come over and open and call you over. Change the way you think about it. So it's been very interesting, me personally, just catching the way that I think as I go through my days, because, you know, this is such a learning process for me as well. And especially the whole trusting the process, especially when somebody tells you something that maybe you don't want to hear. You know, like, that's when you're like, you have to ignore that reality and in your mind say, this is how it's going to be. That's it. Because nobody in your reality has any free will. They only reflect back to you what you believe. And if you look around you and you look at some of the other people in your life, you'll probably notice that that is true. It's true with most people. Like, you'll hear people say stories like, well, I just went into that job interview and I was like, I'm going to get it. And then they got it. Or somebody was rejected by somebody 50 times, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, they're together. Or here, this is classic. This is classic. I hear a lot of this a lot. Somebody doesn't want to be in a committed relationship, and then 3 weeks later, they're with somebody else and they're committed, and they're walking down the aisle. And then the other person's like, what happened? I thought they didn't want a commitment. You thought they didn't want a commitment. So that's what they showed to you. The new person that they're with didn't think that. And that's why they got what they wanted. So it's very interesting, right? We could always look at other people and see how it works. But it's much more difficult when we look at ourselves and how it works. So it's just some techniques and observations that I've had over the last few weeks. Things that I've noticed in my own life. So I think that's about it for today. This stuff can be I don't think it's hard to understand. I think it might be a little bit hard to believe at first because it's a new way of thinking and it's a new way of looking at situations. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't always look at situations like they can change or it can be different or I can fix this and that I'm doing this. We tend to look at these situations like we were the victim. Like, oh, I did all the right things, but I didn't get the promotion. How come I didn't get the promotion? How many people have been in that situation? How many people have been in that situation where they're like, I do everything right at work, but I didn't get the promotion. I remember my last raise at my day job, God help me, it was 17 cents. 17 cents an hour. How disgusting is that? This was a full-time job that I had been at for well over 10 years. Maybe at the time I was there 12 or 13 years. 17 cents. And the way that, I get so pissed when I think about this. The way they started doing the review process was so convoluted and a waste of time that for the 17 cents, they spent more time talking about it, meeting about it, re-meeting about it, unmeeting about it, discussing it and undiscussing it than I was going to make in the year with that raise. Like, what's 17 cents over the course of 40 hours a week for 52 weeks? Like, how much was my raise? It was disgusting. But at that moment, the way that I felt unappreciated by them. I felt like they didn't take me seriously. I felt like they demanded a lot from me and they didn't reciprocate. And that's what was shown. That's exactly what I was shown. My thoughts showed to me exactly what I believed, that I was worth the 17-cent raise. 17 cents, that's what I got. And like I said, the money that was spent discussing it, meeting about it, writing reviews about it, and everything, I mean, it was ridiculous. Like, you may as well not even have given me a review and saved your time. Bought me lunch. It probably would have been better for me to get a lunch than 17 cents an hour. But, like I said, this is what was shown to me. And I had plenty of friends that I worked with that I know had much less responsibility than me, but thought that they deserved more money and they were getting paid much more than me. I know that. I know that because I know just the way that the company ran. I just know it. But who's to blame? It was me. It was my own fault because it was what I believed about myself. And that's exactly what I sent out. And that's exactly what I got back. And I didn't know back then that I could change it. I felt like the situation was so far gone that there was no coming back from it. Now, I never felt that way about my job at A&P. And anyone that's ever worked in a grocery store, it's not the best job to have. I mean, the job itself, it sucks. You know, like the hours, well, there's pros and cons to everything. Sometimes I felt like the hours were beneficial because no matter what else you were doing during the day, you could find some shift you could work if you really wanted to. They were open from 7 in the morning until 11 at night. Well, that was the daytime shift. We did have a night crew at one point, but if you were a night crew person, you were on a different pay rate. You got paid differently. But, you know, working in a grocery store, you got to work weekends, you got to work holidays. People treat you like you're like the shit on the bottom of their shoe. But I never felt Very few times was I ever made to feel underappreciated at A&P. I never felt that way. I always felt like they knew that they could call me at a moment's notice and I would be there if I could be there. And if they needed me for an hour and a half, I would go in for an hour and a half. If they needed me for 13 hours, I would be there for 13 hours. And I knew that they respected that about me, and that if the hours were available, they would give them to me when they could. And that's what got reflected back to me. If we had a snowstorm and nobody else went in, one of my managers in a big truck would come pick me up, and I would work there all day. I could run the place, basically, and they would drive me home at night. So I didn't have to worry about driving, because I'm scared to death driving in the snow. And I would work all day, and so be it. But like I said, this is what was getting reflected back to me, because that is what I believed. I can't think of any other examples right now that I can think of off the top of my head where, I mean, everything that we experience in our life, we do to ourselves. So choose wisely what you want to experience. Choose wisely, because if somebody is not acting or showing you what you want to see, change the way you're thinking. And that could be very challenging too. If you have an idea, here's a good example. I had a very good friend of mine. We were friends since second grade. And our friendship was fine, like right through junior high. It wasn't really until we got into high school that for some reason she really started to get very competitive with me. And there was not really any competition. Like, I didn't really see any competition because she was always much more popular with the guys. She always had more money than me. She worked a lot. She was definitely more confident than me. She was definitely more popular than me. I don't know why she had this competitive thing with me, but there was at some point where she started like if I was interested in a guy, she had to flirt with them, and she had to like get his attention, and all of these really embarrassing situations came up for me over the 4 years of high school. But now that I look back on it, it's like I had it in my head, right? She's more popular than me. The guys like her better than me. We had a very interesting dynamic. First of all, she was very tall, and she had blonde hair, very straight blonde hair. And I was very short, and I had curly hair, and I always wanted to have the blonde hair. The funny part about it is that even though her and her siblings were all very blonde, blue-eyed like the father, her mom was very short and darker coloring like me. And her mom always liked me, and her mom used to always compare her to me. And on the other hand, my mother really liked her. I mean, she had this gorgeous blonde hair, and she was very tall, and it was a bizarre dynamic, right? And I loved to sing, and naturally, I didn't have a good singing voice. My voice was very deep. I needed a lot of work. Naturally, she was a mezzo-soprano. She fit most of the songs perfect. Right there, just fell into her voice. She was very popular. So it was very interesting, the dynamic that we had. It's like we were what each other thought we should be or something. I don't know. It was bizarre. So it was very interesting to see the way this worked out. I'm barely 5'1". She was 5'8". There was just a huge difference. So it was very interesting. But I put it in my head, right, that she's better than me. She can sing better than me. She's got this long, gorgeous blonde hair. It's pinned straight. Everything looks better on her. I mean, when you're tall, you can get away with a lot more than you can when you're short. You gain 2 pounds when you're short, and people are like, what did you gain, 50 pounds? And you're like, no, I just drank a glass of water, thanks. I have to pee. I'm a little bloated. So the dynamic was very interesting, but I always had it in my head that she was better than me. And this is what started to get shown back to me. Now, who knows what she had in her head about me? And I was showing her that, I'm a victim, I'm naive, I'm stupid, I think you're better than I am. You know, who knows? I don't know what she had, but whatever it was, I was showing it back to her. So it's very interesting when you look back at your relationships, especially with friends like that, because we were friends for a really long time. This guy. I did that a lot with friends, though, not just with her. I did it with a lot of my friends. You know, thinking that people were better than me with something, or thinking that they were more popular, they were smarter. And it always got reflected back to me, and I always wound up feeling bad. And then the more you feel bad, the more you put that out there, the more it gets shown back to you. So you're living exactly what you want to live, because that's what you're thinking about. All right, that's about it for today. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to go live tomorrow afternoon. Maybe around the same time. What time is it now? Is it already 5 o'clock? Oh my God, I didn't realize it was that late. Hey. Oh, relax. I'm probably going to go live tomorrow around the same time, and maybe we'll do some astrology tomorrow and some tarot stuff. All right, if you like what we're doing here at the Magic Junk Drawer, don't forget to like and subscribe, share us with your friends, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.